put all new windows, new heat system, new hot water tank.
It's like heat stroke.
Going next year, you know?
Let's open the meeting with a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, I guess we got two sets of minutes in front of us.
One's easy.
I'm not sure I had a chance to read these, but.
You're welcome.
How are you? Good, you? Good. You didn't put in here, I was gonna kick their butts.
No. They can watch the
They
tape.
can see it on the video.
How are you, Mr. Nato?
Pretty good.
Can I give you a check?
Check.
Yeah. Give me a check. Number 4 is exited executive session.
Oh. A little Freudian slip over there.
Oh, well, just a little bit.
Just a tiny one.
That's okay. She typed those in 5 minutes. That's pretty good.
I think, you guys all set with the Thursday ones?
Are you all set, Paul?
13th?
Yeah.
Make a motion to accept the Thursday, July 13th minutes as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Second,
And then. Make a motion to accept the minutes, Wednesday, July 19th, 2017 minutes as written.
Second. Oops, sorry.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Alright. Mike, good, you're up.
Okay, I had a call from Lieutenant Bill Ross from the state police,
Okay.
and he is the supervisor for Sergeant Shapiro.
Okay.
He's the one that I think wrote a letter last time that the Proving Grounds had an event, or the first event they had this year.
It was
Remember that
Sergeant
letter?
Shapiro that did that.
Yeah. So,
So his name is what again? Oh, Bill Ross?
yeah,
Okay.
he wanted to know if we were interested in having a meeting between the state police, fire chief, code, and the selectmen. Preferably on 7/27 at 10 a.m. And this meeting is about the Proving Grounds, and the Zellas will be there too as well. And it's about, you see, every time that the Proving Grounds has an event, it's experimental, so they try ways to make it better and better and better. And we help them try to make it better and better and better. And the state police wants to have their input too, to help them make it better and better and better as they go along.
Okay.
So it's just a meeting about, how we're looking at, putting these events together, and working with the Zellas.
Okay, have the Zellas been notified?
Yes. I got this last Tuesday,
Well, like 2 days ago or whatever, 2 days?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I just wanted to bring this to the board's attention, see if we
So are
can
there-
hold
are
this meeting, and if you can't,
Are there
that's
zealous-
it,
is
that's
there-
it, did you take this number down?
Yeah, I did, but I mean, that's hard for you, right?
Yeah, but I'm okay with that. If you two can go, that's fine, cause I have to work. So, I mean,
I mean, in the
I'm-
middle of the morning is tough for all of us.
yeah, so that's, that's okay with me. I mean, if you two can do it, that's fine.
I told Bill that if the 10 o'clock didn't work, that quite possibly the selectmen will call you back and set up a different time.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a little bit of time before their next event.
Yep.
So it's not like we have to get this done this week.
Right, yeah.
I would prefer us all to be there. I think it's important enough that we're all in attendance. We can be flexible, we can do it on a Wednesday, I mean, you can't do it on Wednesday.
I work for community partners on
Right,
Wednesdays.
we can't do it on Wednesday, so, but I mean, I will call him back and try to do it in the afternoon, so I mean,
That's fine.
Friday afternoon, we could do it, right?
Yeah.
As after like 3 o'clock would work?
Yeah.
Does that work for you though?
Yeah,
on
I'll
3
make it,
o'clock?
yeah,
On
yeah.
Friday, that would
Yeah,
still
I'll do
work.
it, yeah.
So Friday from 3 o'clock would work.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to think of not too late.
Yeah,
Tuesday or Thursday,
we probably should wait and talk with Bill first, that way that way you guys can set up a date.
well, no, I'm trying to make sure
Mhm.
we're okay. I think the Zellers can probably make it most times.
Yeah.
Cause they're local.
Yeah.
So then, once I have us, then I can coordinate with him to find something that works for him as well.
Sure.
That's what I'm trying to, I don't wanna find time that works for him to find out it doesn't work for all of us.
Sure.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, what's earliest for you on,
5:15, that's the earliest I can.
so that's it, so Fridays, and what about Mondays? Same thing? So,
Monday's my late night.
so Tuesdays and Thursdays is 5:15 is the earliest that we can do. So Fridays, we can do at 3 o'clock, if it needs to be earlier than that. And Thursday at 5:15 would essentially be ideal for you as well.
I think for all of us, yeah.
Right, so, okay. Alright. I'll let him know. Did he reach out to the Zellers or did you?
I did.
Are they tentatively scheduled for that?
I told him that I would be talking to the selectmen to make sure, but tentatively it was going to be at 10 o'clock. But I would, pass this on to the selectmen so that they could contact you.
Do you have Ross's email?
No, I don't, I just got his number.
Okay, I'll get his email.
Yeah.
So could you let the Zellers know that it won't be the 27th,
Sure.
but that we're gonna try to find a better date?
We'll get back to him with the date.
With a date, and I'll send an email out to everybody.
Yeah.
To loop everybody in, you in, and I'll get an email from the lieutenant when I talk to him.
Okay.
So, thanks, Mike, that's all you had?
Yeah.
Thanks.
See ya.
Barbecue date is the 17th, right? September 17th, isn't that
Yes.
what we said?
Yep.
Let's pull out the calendar. So,
And the rain date is the next weekend, right?
right, I don't know why, but part of me wants to allow a guest.
I agree with that,
That's fine.
And so I think rather than saying
especially
spouse
on
or,
a Sunday.
right, and I think rather than saying spouse or whatever, just say employee plus one guest.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah,
they
that's
wanna, if
fine.
they wanna bring a kid, they can do that, they can, it's a, so I think I think we'll get better attendance that way. And again, it's a get together type of an event, so, I think that just, you guys okay with that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so then I'll do you wanna tomorrow get an email out to department heads?
Yep.
Dumps open tomorrow, transfer station's open tomorrow?
No.
No,
Saturday,
Cause
okay.
Robert doesn't, you wanna talk,
I'll take care of it.
can you talk to them?
Saturday morning.
Okay,
It's the 17th
17th, yep,
of
September, yep.
What time?
Yeah, we didn't decide that.
It's gonna be mid-afternoon?
Well, I mean, we wanna do like a lunch barbecue, right?
Yeah,
It's
or we
not-
could do it
not an
later.
Are we doing an evening one?
Well, we could do it in the middle of the afternoon, so it doesn't wreck everybody's day. I mean, that might help too, I don't know.
Well, I don't feel so bad if you can bring their wives, you know?
Yeah, whatever, that's fine. Or a guest.
I mean, I was thinking like 1 o'clock,
Yeah, that's fine.
and then that way we can
Mhm.
have hamburgers and hot dogs or whatever early, and then they can either hang out and whatever, or they can take off.
Okay,
What?
croquet.
Croquet.
Okay, remember?
Yeah, yeah, I
Paul
know,
got very excited about
I
that.
know,
Yeah.
we'll get the croquet,
We'll get the games,
croquet.
we'll have games.
This. Okay, so it's 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
1 PM?
Yep.
Okay, till
Whatever.
whenever.
Yeah.
Do they allow bring your own alcohol, right? Do we allow that? Are we doing that?
I
or
don't
no?
know. Oh, I don't know.
Over there? Yeah.
But are we, is it a bring your own? Is it a not? Is it a
I would think
no?
not.
Okay.
That's what I
Alright.
would say.
Alright, that's fine. Alright,
What-
we won't. Alright,
I would think
we won't.
we should
That's fine.
go there.
That's fine. We won't go there. And then, so yeah, just get it out to, the biggest thing is the chief, Tom for roads.
Transfer station,
Well, he's gonna do transfer station, and then, who else we got? Dale. So
Yeah.
some-
I'll have everybody at the transfer station Saturday morning.
Okay,
Everybody's gonna be there.
alright. Who else am I missing? Do we extend this to boards, or is it purely employees
well,
that are employees?
we could kinda, we could really have a lot if we did that. I mean,
think-
that
I
would
think
be
that's
nice.
almost too many,
I
but-
think that would be nice to do that, but I don't know if we can do that this time.
Let's do this one first and see how
Yeah.
it goes, and maybe we can do that later, but it's, yeah, 'cause I don't wanna, okay. Alright, am I missing, why do I feel like I'm missing, oh, Marcy, make sure Marcy knows.
Yeah,
She gets forgotten a lot, cause she's all by herself.
she is all by herself.
And summer camp, right? I mean, are they employees? I mean, that's kind of,
Well, they are employees, but I don't know.
animal control officers. Just trying to think of the people that we.
You better start making a roster of who's in.
No, and try to do like an RSVP of some sort.
Yep.
Just so we have an idea.
Mhm.
I mean 17th, so I don't know, September 1st or something,
Okay.
just so that we can get a rough idea.
Mhm.
And tell them to talk it up. We don't wanna be eating hamburgers and hot dogs for the week after.
Yeah.
That's you too. You can have lunches,
I know.
lunches here are gonna be free, hamburgers and hot dog
Feeling it
lunches.
all.
Alright. What else I got? Alright, so that's that. I just wanted to, the assessors will be out, some of us already know, but the assessors will be out tomorrow. Working on building permits, the occupancy permits, going to those, they're all done to get us ready for commitment. So they're gonna be out and about. She's got a letter that I'll sign. Oh, you already got it? It's basically just with their names and their vehicle registration and stuff that they have. It's kind of like a letter of authority. It's kind of like a letter of authority, so that they can, provide this to a person to say, here's my letter of authority, and so it talks to them. So that's what that is. You don't have to sign it, it's just one spot. They contact the sheriffs and the Maine State Police too, so that way in case somebody calls them, they're aware we're out and about. So that's that. Alright, Steve Baker. Howdy, sir, come on up.
Hi, Norm Turgeon.
Hi, Norm. Pleasure to meet
I'm here with Steve.
you. Okay, hey Steve, Chaparro, pleasure to meet you.
Steve's the treasurer of TPPA.
Okay,
I'm the president.
Okay, cool.
So he asked me to come and talk.
Great.
Because I've been before this board a number of times to talk about the various aspects of the European NIAID control program. Tonight, we're here to talk to you about the funding of it. And to try and get you to try to come up with an agreement with you as to how we're going to access the town funds that have been appropriated for this. But let me just tell you as a start that the program this year consists of essentially monitoring of the lakes to locate where the NIAID is growing, so we can direct contractors to remove it. There is a contract with a diver-assisted suction harvesting company. Comes from the list of approved people by the state. And they're gonna be doing that. And then Maine DEP has a contract with a herbicide applicator. And they're going to be applying herbicides at the northeast end of the northeast pond, approximate 41 acre site there where there was a huge infestation last year. Last year we went very successful with the program. Maine DEP and New Hampshire DES spent $30,000 because it was the first year after we discovered it. They spent $30,000 with a diver trying to get rid of that 41 acres, and they only succeeded in getting rid of less than 40%. And it's for that reason that they've recommended the use of herbicides in that area, specific herbicides. And John McFedrin from Maine DEP has been here, and he's had hearings, and he's given the board all the information about the herbicide.
Yep.
So that's gonna take place. Now the herbicide treatment is currently scheduled to start, in fact, take place on the 26th. That's next week. The DASH is the diver-assisted suction harvesting. The DASH contractor planned to start on the 17th. And he's removing and everywhere else on the pond that we have it.
Okay.
Depot Pond, starting almost at the dam, all the way through the river, and all of northeast less the 41 acre site. We hope to be able to get that whole area screened, surveyed, get all those plants removed that we can find. So that next year we'll have less. It'll be less of a problem next year. But it's gonna be a multi-year program. It's gonna be like getting rid of dandelions, it's gonna be growing for years, and we don't know how long. So, now, what's TPPA's role? TPPA has applied to New Hampshire and Maine for grant funding this year. And we were fortunate in being awarded more in the way of grant money than we expected, which is great. The way that the grant works, the states have asked us to serve as a financial administrator, if you will, to use grant funds to pay the contractors and to get funds from the towns to pay the contractors and to provide volunteers to do the surveying, that has to be done because it's gonna be done by volunteers, there won't be a cost for that. So basically the cost is the herbicide, the DASH contractor, and we believe, based on the contract amounts, that it could run as high as 44,700 and some change. The town of Lebanon voted to appropriate $6,600. The town of Milton voted to appropriate $10,000. So the voted appropriation, and we wanna thank those of you who are members on the board, there's only one of you, who voted in favor of that referendum question, and the budget committee, who I think voted 9-1 in recommending approval of that referendum question, number 8, I think it was, 6,600. We also wanna thank Milton for your support,
No problem.
you're a member of the board there. And the town, of course, we wanna thank. So what we propose to do is to use the grant dollars to pay the bills until there are no more grant dollars.
Okay.
Then we propose, when we get a bill from the contractor, we propose to attach it to an invoice, one of which goes to the town of Lebanon and one of which goes to the town of Milton. Same bill. And identify on the invoice the amount that is appropriately chargeable to Lebanon, and on the Milton invoice, the amount that is appropriately chargeable to Milton. Question then becomes, what is appropriately chargeable to Lebanon and what's appropriately chargeable to Milton? I don't know how you figure that out, but our proposal would be to use the appropriated amounts and to identify that amount which is proportional to the appropriated amounts. 16,600 was appropriated by both towns. 10,000 of that 16,600 is 60.24%. 6,600 was appropriated by Lebanon. 6,600 of the 16,600 is 39.76%. We would propose to use those ratios. And say if we get a bill for 5,000, we ask you to give us 35.7, I can't repeat the numbers, but 39.76. And in Milton, we would ask for 60.24%.
I'm not against that, but I question whether that's fair.
Well, that's why we're asking you to think about it.
I mean, in my mind, isn't it basically a 50-50 deal? And so while the amounts appropriated were different, part of me I don't think it's fair to establish a ratio that then can be used down the road when perhaps a more appropriate ratio is 50-50.
If we were to go
I
50-50,
just throw that out there. I don't know how that, the problem is that if you divide all the bills up, when
we don't have a problem making it 50-50. The problem is it won't, and it's really not a problem, I don't think it'll be a problem, but if we go 50-50, we're gonna reach a point where, the 6,600 from Lebanon has been used up.
and there's still money left over on the Milton side.
And there's gonna be more left over on the Milton side, and then we would just go to Milton with the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that's my only, that's my only concern is that I understand exactly how you.
I know,
But I'm not sure it's fair to say that our responsibility is something less than 50%. I mean,
Well, I think the formula, and I would have to go back and look, but it was based on computation of amount that would be lost on property values and the number of properties on the ponds in relation to Milton properties, so
did they actually do a full calculation like that?
Yeah, we did, there wasn't.
we did, I did,
Yeah. Did.
I did, based on
Yeah.
tax dollars in 2015. Waterfront property tax dollars in Lebanon, waterfront property dollars, tax dollars in Milton. At that time, Milton was getting about 2 million a year out of the waterfront properties, and Lebanon was getting some number like
That was
700,000.
on 15, but we
Yeah.
just changed our water.
Well, you just
so-
changed the waterfront value, so the numbers are gonna be different.
I just,
But the
Well,
ratio,
I just
that ratio of 60 point, the ones I just gave you, was strictly based on the amounts that you've
Understood.
chosen to appropriate.
understood.
If we were gonna do it based on the tax formula, it may turn out to be a little different.
Does anybody remember how we came up with the 6,600?
Pulled it out of the air.
No,
No,
that was
no,
a.
we had recommended 6,600.
Mr. Turgeon had come in, if that was the number
So you
that he
recommended 10 to
had
Milton, and you
recommended.
We had recommended more than 10,000 to the town of Milton. We had recommended, because we were making guesses, one, on what's the cost of the project, two, how much we're gonna get for grants. And we felt that we should get a certain number from both towns. We had recommended, based on my calculation of a ratio, based on potential property tax laws.
Mhm.
And it came out 6,600 for Lebanon, it came out with a higher number for Milton.
Almost 50.
Milton, close to 15,000. Milton elected to ask the town to appropriate 10.
Mhm.
Lebanon elected to ask the town to appropriate 6,600.
So we appropriated the full amount that they asked us for.
Good. Yeah, I don't know, you can slice it any which way you wanted, you could do it by shorefront if you wanna do it that way, you could do it, there's a lot of different ways that you can.
Right.
And we both have a significant interest in that lake being
Right.
a decent lake, and so
Right.
that's why I just think it's just fair to go 50-50 and.
And the economic impact is enormous, you know.
Yeah, to both sides, and so, I mean, that's just how I,
Yeah.
We appreciate that. One thing that I wanna make sure we throw into the mix is that because we're getting a fair amount of money this year from both New Hampshire and Maine, as Norm says, it's unlikely that we might spend the 16.6 that we're talking about here. And Milton has already said, and I talked to both the administrator and the accountant over there, at the end of the year, if you haven't spent it, we'll just encumber that for 2018, and you can also come back and ask for additional funding, like the 10,000.
I don't think we have that mechanism. So that's and I was concerned about that, if you don't, so the grant money doesn't expire, does it?
The grant money is all gonna be used.
Yeah,
But the grant money doesn't expire, correct?
That's right, it's not expiring. There's another source of non-expiring funds too, which I haven't even mentioned.
Okay, but my recommendation might be that you use our funds first.
Okay.
Because then you don't deal with them running past a deadline where cause after the year, they go away and they go back to our general fund.
Alright, well, talking in the future then, do you think it's likely we could come back next year and ask for 2018 funding from Lebanon?
I think there's a good chance, I mean, I can't speak for the people how they vote for it, I think, they voted on this to see where does it go, and so, obviously, if they're just throwing herbicides or doing whatever and it's not helping,
Right.
they may not wanna do that, but if there's some improvement or whatever, then they may, I can't speak for.
Well, that's fair, I think that we clearly, what we wanna do at the end of the year is see how effective were we, what worked, what didn't, how much would,
No,
how much did we get rid of,
and I know sometimes it's hard because it may take 3 years to see the results.
Yep.
So I do understand, there's some of that, so I think, probably it's not like it's a huge amount, so, I would think they would be willing to do the same amount, but, again, I don't wanna.
Yeah.
You got a question?
Mary Lane, I do have a question. If it's under $1,000 on how much we donate, does it always have to go for a vote? Or
It's under 1,000, under 10,000?
Under 10,000, does it have to go for a vote? Or can you just decide you're gonna give the money?
Well, we can't give the money, it's gotta come from someplace.
Okay, but does it always have to go to town vote? That's my question.
So it's the 10,000, and quite frankly, I'd probably have to find it where it is. But that normally is, let's say in roads, if they wanna buy a piece of equipment, that's more than 10,000, that normally has to go to a vote of some sort. That's changed with the capital improvement fund, so that doesn't impact, but that's where it comes, it's not like we can just take 10,000 out of our checking account and buy something.
But it doesn't have to go to vote, if
Yes,
it's
it-
under 10,000?
Yes, it does,
No, it doesn't.
yes, it
It does,
does,
okay.
every dollar that we spend
Has to
in a
go to
year goes to vote, because it's in the budget somewhere.
Okay, just wondered.
It's within that budget is that 10,000 issue.
Thank you.
Now, I do wanna mention though that, something about funding, in case there are any questions about it. TBPA has never made any secret of the fact that we have been collecting money and setting it aside to combat invasive aquatic plants, should we ever reach a point where we needed it. We started that probably 8 years ago. We currently have, and I mentioned this the last time I was here, we currently have about 29,000 in that account, okay? Based on our income, by the way, our income comes from people who are members of TPPA. And last year, we ended up with about 160 families. And, which represents us, like less than 30% of the population of waterfront property owners, okay? But, they contribute anywhere from $15 a year to $100 a year per family. And so we use those funds to do run our other programs, and whatever's left over, we put it in the invasive species funds, and that commits it to that purpose, forever. So if we don't use any of that this year, because we don't have to because of the town funds and the state funds, those monies will be available for next year and the next year. And our hope is that we can continue, TPPA can continue to augment that fund. And if we don't augment it, pay it to contractors at the rate of about $6,000 a year for a good long time, for the life of for as long as we need it.
Right.
So we're not trying to hold on to those funds by not expending them this year. Because of the grant funds and the town funds, we propose to finance the program this year with those dollars. If it ends up costing more, then then we'll dip into the TPPA fund. TPPA fund will be available next year and the year after and the year after. So, in case there's any question about that. Just to give you some numbers, the grant money that we got adds up to a little over 32,000. And we got 9,111 from New Hampshire and 22,992 from the Maine DEP. Now, I didn't ask them how they came about deciding those numbers.
Those grants we can apply for every year, or should I say
Yes.
you apply for those?
Oh, yes, they offer grants every year. We can't expect these kind of numbers in future years, I don't think. I think one of the reasons why the number, especially for Maine, was so high was because last year they tried to fund, they in New Hampshire tried to fund the entire thing and they failed to get rid of the bulk of the problem. And I think this year they're saying, okay, we're gonna continue with the mentality that says this is an extension of the number one, the first year. So we're gonna give them more than we would normally give them. That's what I think happened.
With having more money, is there a way that you can combat it more aggressively than you had planned?
No, well, yeah, and we have the contractor, the Dash contractor, on board for up to 28/8. That's
6 weeks.
That's 6 weeks, guys working 10 hours a day, 4 days a week. We think that in 6 weeks, we're gonna be able to sweep all the pond and get everything out that you could get. I don't think we could get that much more aggressive.
Okay.
We are taking advantage of the opportunity
Right.
of having the funds
Right.
to go out after as much as we possibly can. So that's it. So we'd ask for your agreement to accept bills from us. We can make them 50% for Lebanon and 50% for Milton. And when the 6,600 is expended and we need to send more money, get more money from Milton, we'll do it. Up to the maximum amount, that 10,000. I don't think we're gonna get there. I don't think we're gonna need the whole 10,000. But if we do, maybe the contractor is gonna say after 6 weeks, I can do a lot more, but just another week. One of the things we were trying to do is to get volunteers to hang around the dash divers with nets to scoop up fragments, because once they get seeds, which won't occur until sometime in August, we wanna get the seeds out, because that's what's gonna regrow.
That addresses your question, is couldn't they
So-
work more or do more?
Yeah,
And frankly, it gets to the point in August
so,
when it's not feasible to pull it up because you just spread it.
so we might want to have this and the contractor has offered, I can hire a guy in a canoe and a kayak to do that, and I'll pay him $200 a day if you wanna do that. We might take him up on that once we start seeing that the plants are getting ready to seed.
I'll give you $200
$50 a day.
Sure, you're welcome, you could do it for
Very
free.
hard work.
You could volunteer to do it for free, Deborah.
I would volunteer to do it for free, Norm, you just let me know and I'll bring my canoe right down.
You can use my kayak.
No, I'm not getting in that kayak.
You have any questions? No? You sure? Any questions?
No, I'm good,
You guys good with 50%?
absolutely.
Very well,
That's good to hear.
that's
I
great.
make a motion that we accept invoices from TPP at a 50% rate.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
So when I come back with a bill, who should I see and that you talk to?
Our treasurer, and if you just see him out front, they'll get it to him, or you can ask to see him, and
Good, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thanks a lot for coming. You doing?
Nice meeting you folks.
Nice to meet you.
New members,
Yes.
and you'll be around a while, perhaps.
hopefully.
Paul,
See you,
so you're still around for another year at least, yeah, yeah, good.
I'll adjourn, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, folks. Yep.
Fight Paul real quick. Says he's out of town, I go, what?
Alright, I got like 9 minutes. Let me go through. I gotta go back here. What's this? Oh, I can do that. So Jordan and I were talking. We were talking about hours and kind of salary and kind of people that are out and about and doing things and the accountability from what the assessors want, or not the assessors, the auditors
Auditor,
want and
yep.
stuff. So we were thinking about this, basically these binders that basically are just, they got a little opening here and then there's just a binder, it's a 9 by 7, so it's not quite, it's not 8.5 low, it's a little bit smaller. It's got a decent back and just doing it for the CEO, the chief and the roads. So, I mean, CEO, when he's in office, it just is in office, but when he's out and about, where, what's he inspecting, what building or what foundation or what septic or, you know what I'm saying, just kind
Yes.
of to write that down to keep a log. Same thing with chief as far as, being on call at home at night and that week, I don't need to know that. I mean, that's, but if he's at a fire and what, especially more or less what he's doing during the day,
Right.
there'd be office or whatever. And the same thing with Tommy with roads.
I already told Tommy to keep notes.
So, I
While
mean,
he's doing it.
and so if they have
Is
this,
he? Is he keeping notes?
He said he is.
well, what I wanna do is if I can do it as a standard way that everybody does it. And then what they do is they just take a copy of the page or pages for that week. And they attach that to their time card, that's the detail, rather than trying to squeeze it all in on this.
Absolutely.
They just take a copy of that page, so they leave it in the book. And then when the book is done, or they do the book for a year or whatever, then we just file the book away. And they do another book. So, does that sound, I mean, these are $8 a piece.
Yeah.
So they're 80 pages, so it's gonna last, I mean, so, does that sound
Yeah.
I
like
like
a
it.
reasonable plan?
I mentioned that for the CEO 2 weeks ago.
Okay, alright, so
Do noted.
we'll get it ordered, we will get it ordered, alright. More time, yeah, I think I talked to you both, I'm working, we had an issue with a road cut. And so we both had several calls. Anyways, talking to legal, figuring out a way to, through all this, a lot of towns don't have a policy, but a lot of towns do have a policy. Most of the towns that have policies are the ones that have water and sewer or gas in the middle of the road.
So that they need a way for people to tie into the road or cut into the road to fix pipes and do all that kind of stuff, so they have permits. We don't really have that. In this case, it was electrical. They wanted to run the electrical across the road for their property from the pole, rather than putting a pole around on the other side. And that could happen further down. I don't think it has happened in the past, but it could happen. Most residents won't do that versus running it from the wire because it's a lot more expensive. And if they gotta dig it up, it's more expensive, so they won't do that, but, so that's what I'm working on, is a permitting process. I'm pulling from probably 5 or 6 different ones to put together this policy. So I've got it.
He should put a sleeve through, so he can run his wire through.
Yeah, he's got a conduit. It has to be done the right way.
Okay,
He's got a conduit in there, I think.
so you'll never have to rip it up.
Yeah, well, unless,
Well,
you
just
never know.
change the
Yeah,
wire.
yeah, you never know, but yeah, you shouldn't have to. So anyways, I've got this, I'm working on this. Once I gotta get my part done, I then wanna submit it to MMA. Let legal review it at MMA. Once they do that, then it's pretty close, and then we can hold a public hearing. And have them run through it, and then we're good to go. And then we'll have Alex do a permit after the fact. I've already talked to him about that. And so he'll fill out a permit and everything else, and everything will apply to him as though he did it ahead of time, but it will be after the fact. So, and that should hopefully solve everything. Alright, that's that. Let's talk cemeteries. I have several people, I'm not sure I know who they are. Some faces are familiar.
I'm Joanne Potter.
Hi, Joanne.
From the North Lebanon Cemetery Association.
Okay.
Which is
And-
Forest Grove.
Forest Grove, right, correct. And you,
Summer Cavallaro.
Okay.
You were just talking
Oh,
about my husband.
oh, okay,
And we had a couple questions about that.
okay, I got some time, go ahead.
Now, when you talked to him the other day, you brought up the fact that you were gonna fine him for,
That's correct.
you're gonna fine him for what? What's the actual fine for?
Excavating without a permit.
But at the time, the town did not have an ordinance
That's correct.
for it.
This
So-
is a policy actually that we're doing, not an ordinance, but he also didn't have permission.
He did.
No, he didn't. He has not provided anything in writing that shows permission.
He talked to Tommy and he asked Mike, and they both said that they didn't see a problem with doing it.
That's not what they've told me. And I have nothing in writing.
I'd like to have them both come in because I have tons of cell phone bills that show them talking. And we've talked to Tom and he said that he did tell us to do it. He told us we had to do it before the road was paved.
I've spoken to Tommy and he said the other way. So again, I'm not, and in this day and age,
It's like a he said, she said.
exactly, so that, we won't go anywhere.
We didn't feel, when we asked them, we feel that they told us to do it before the road got paved, there was no town ordinance to do it.
Your husband has done many permits and he knows that things need to be done in writing. And I'm sure you know that everything, when you get permission, most of the times that needs to be in writing. And so, yes, you're right, it's gonna be a he said, she said.
But when we've talked to them, they both said, yeah, we've said it.
Well, when we've talked to them, they both said no.
I think what we need to do is have them come in and have a big discussion about it and find out where the breakdown in communication was.
We already had that discussion. They were here during a department head meeting and they said that they did not give permission. And that's on tape.
And they told us that they both did.
Again, all I can go is what my department heads tell me. And you can say that, and I'm not gonna say who's not being clear. All I'm saying is you're right, it's a he said, she said, which is why nowadays everything is done in writing. So there's a building permit.
Right, and which we've had one before.
And that's done in writing, and so
Right,
there's
but
no.
when they both told us that there's no town ordinance, there's no permit to pull.
That's right, and did
You
you
know.
guys come to the selectmen?
No, because we asked what else we need to do, and they told us that,
So my point is that, so,
if they don't know how to go about doing this,
Then
how are
somebody
we
should have come to,
supposed to?
somebody should have come to the selectmen.
Well, the way I do business is if I ask and they tell me it's okay.
They didn't say it's, well, again, that's what you say. They told us they didn't. So, again, we'll be at a stalemate, but the bottom line is he didn't have a permit.
And
If-
then,
if
but
you-
there's no town ordinance that
He
permit.
didn't have permission. And you have nothing, you can go to a court of law and then whether they say yes or no, you've got nothing in writing. So again, if you really, this is how this all started. I tried to work with him, okay, but now you wanna argue over a $25 penalty? I mean, if you wanna go to court over a $25 penalty, that's fine, we'll go. But
No,
I'm not, again, I can only go by my department heads.
when,
They said they did not give it. I'm trying to do a policy, he did not have permission. You say he does, I say provide the proof that you had permission. You have no proof.
what we have is Tommy telling him he had to do it.
I have Tommy saying that he didn't.
Well, then I guess we're gonna have to go back and be like, Tommy, why, cause my husband just talked to Tommy today, and he's like, if I need to go in and tell him that, what I told you, then that's what we're gonna do. So Tommy now is changing his story to what he's telling us. And Mike has talked to, my husband and whatnot and said the same thing, yeah, I remember us talking about it, there's no ordinance for it. And then the big breakdown,
That's correct, there is no ordinance for it, there was no permitting process, that is correct. This is probably the first time that I know of that there's been an unauthorized road cut, where anybody's asked to do a road cut. So the town hadn't, and there's a lot of small towns that don't have this policy.
right,
Okay, so, yeah, so is it a little bit by surprise? Yes, but there's a state law. And this-
right, and
the-
we called the
and this-
DOT.
Well, the state law says you have to have permission from the local authority, not
And-
Department of Transportation, local authority.
And if you call, in the little law that you guys had given us, that it also states, and we called DOT, because it says Department of DOT in it. So we called them, and that is a blanket for small towns to use. And if they wanna use that as a blanket, they also need to come up with an ordinance to support that.
Next, we don't need an ordinance, we have a policy, by legal, we don't need an
And
ordinance.
what policy is that?
We're drafting one right now.
Right, so you're drafting one up afterwards,
Yes,
and now it's like you wanna find.
Joanne?
Now you wanna fine us because Tommy said and Mike said that they said they didn't give us permission when they did.
again,
I'll take over.
okay,
Go ahead. Go ahead, you were gonna say something.
we have been told that they did not give you permission. You are saying that they did give you permission.
So let's schedule and have both of them here. And then on top of it, they came down that day I was doing it. So they were present. So none of them said, stop, didn't say you can't do this, you can't, they were like, yeah, no, we're just here, everything's fine, so forth. They were there. So you can go back and forth. I'm here to see what the town will do and let's come to some agreement. But I am not gonna agree that I did something wrong. My whole entire career in construction, I've never once had a mark on me. I don't know what it will do, but I'm not gonna admit something I did wrong when I didn't. And that's it. So if you guys wanna go and get permitted, fine, I'll do it. I'll own that road for 3 years or whatever. But I'm not gonna admit that I didn't go and get a permit when I asked and called. This has been planned for a year. So that's where we're at. And if you wanna start saying he said, she said, I don't wanna hear it. Let's just have them present. And they were there that day. So,
It's on video, you can watch the video, they were here during the department head meeting and they both said they did not provide.
okay, well, they were there that day. So how come they didn't say, stop? You have no permitted. You have no ordinance on it.
That is correct, but they did.
So you're paving the road.
So,
I just feel you have a personal vendetta against me.
okay, so
Okay.
now we'll go, you wanna go there, let's go there.
Let's go
I
there.
have no personal vendetta, you
Is-
wanna.
are you on
wanna
the
go
planning
out-
board?
You wanna, huh?
Are you on the planning board
No,
with
I'm not.
Corinna Cole? Are you friends with Corinna Cole?
No,
You're not?
no,
You don't know her?
I know her, I know a
Okay.
lot of residents.
Okay, well, here's a complaint that she did that day when CMP came down.
Okay,
And she threw your name up, that she was going to talk with you that day. So.
Really?
Yep, right here.
Where?
See where it says Cole? But she put Harold, but when I called them, they said a woman spoke.
Okay,
That's from CMP.
and where's my name?
No, she verbalized it in front of people. I have witnesses that day.
Okay, well,
So, to me,
she probably said she was gonna come to me because I'm the chairman of the select board.
no, that's not how it was. So, are we gonna come to an agreement to try to make this work? Or are we gonna go back and forth? Cause I'm not gonna admit that I did something wrong. I did ask them, if you got a problem, call them up now. They'll come down here. Call them now. They will come and we'll ask them. And I wanna see what they say to my face. They were present that day. So you call them. To me, it sounds like you have a vendetta problem. And you're preventing my daughter, and I like to keep my personal life to my personal life, okay? She's gonna be in a wheelchair one day, and I'm trying to make my home and stay in the town of Lebanon. You don't want me here? That's fine. I will leave and I will sell my stuff. And then we'll see where it goes from there.
So,
This is America, right?
wait, can you lower your voice a little bit?
Go get the people where you say that I'm a liar and they videoed it. I wanna see the video.
Go to YouTube, right now, it's on there.
Really?
Yes, it is.
Got the date?
You got his phone number, Tommy's?
No,
What's
you
the
don't.
date on it?
Call them and tell them to get down here. Is Mike here?
Yeah.
Let's go get, can I go get Mike?
You can ask him if he wants to come in here. I don't know if he's busy.
Can you come in here, Mike? So he says that it's on YouTube, he filmed you and put it on YouTube, you and Tommy, stating that I never asked you, never even talked about this underground stuff.
Did you give him permission to do it?
It's not about permission,
Yes,
it's about talking. When you wanna do something.
No, it's about permission.
Excuse me, can I speak?
Sure, go ahead.
It's about, you contact the town when you wanna do something, you talk to the road agent and you say, hey, I wanna do this, what do we have to do? I don't know, there's no ordinance. Tony's like, I don't see it being a problem because we're gonna be paving the road, but you gotta go talk to code. I went, talked to him, he says, Al, there ain't no ordinance, it's not my realm. I said, okay. He says, just make sure you call CMP and all that. I said, yep, I'll work with it and all this other stuff. And he said, whatever he sees that he has to do or whatever, he would do. Nobody advised me that I have to go to the planning board. Nobody advised nothing. That's not my job. It's their job to tell me what I should do and what I shouldn't do. I called CMP, called DigSafe. CMP said that there is no municipal anything inspection or whatever. They said, go right ahead, I got the construction number. I did that probably 7 months ago before I did this. Everybody knew. How did I know you were paving if I didn't talk with them about it? Were you there that day that I did it? Did you show up there because people complained?
That's correct.
Did you tell me to stop? And don't turn around and say, well, what are we gonna do? You were already finished. That's what Tommy says. It's bullcrap. I called Tommy and I got my cell phone. My wife has an app. I called him and said, Tommy, about 1:30, it was Tuesday I did it. I said, I'm going down to cut that road. I says, do you want me to pave it? I says, where you're paving? He says, no, just make sure you have gravel. I got a pile of gravel sitting in my yard, okay, to make sure to maintain it. Until he called me up afterwards and said, I don't know, 8 days later, he said that you're hard up for me, okay, and that you're looking to do something against me. And then all of a sudden he called me up, I think, 8 days later and said, yep, he's got some state ordinance or whatever, you gotta stop. So I haven't been grading that road because he said, don't touch it. So it's like, we gotta make our decisions. You just heard the man. He was there that day and he didn't say anything because it's out of his realm. I don't blame him. You know, I've put hundreds of them in Lebanon when I worked for Father and Son. Hundreds of them. Never ever did we go through something like this. So I don't know what the problem is, really. You know, I could see if it was a brand new paved road and I did it, yeah, I should go to jail for that. But it's a crappy road, period, okay? And I'm trying to do something for my daughter so that she can have a better life. And I have to remodel. You think I want to do all that stuff and live where I'm living, where all the people call and complain? You know, we got Rabbits, domestic rabbits that people friggin' for pets, they breeded them. They're all over the place. It's out of control. How many times have people called and complained about that? Nobody's doing anything about that. You know? So let's shame on me for some reason. Shame on me because I'm pulling permits, okay? I got tons of permits right now from the DEP filling in my land because it's wetlands and stuff because people call. So why would I go and get permits in how you say that I think I'm God and I do whatever I want to do? Then why do I have those permits? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done now. I think, maybe. You can speak if you like. You know, because I really feel you have a vendetta against me. Because I can talk to these people, because I've known them and they know how I am, and they don't treat me like the way you're treating me.
How am I treating you?
When I first called you about it, I said, what's the problem? You said, rip it out. And I told you I wasn't. And then, after we had another conversation a couple days ago, you said you were planning on doing this permanent thing, things that are illegal, okay? But you're telling me you're a business person and you're looking out for the town, but you want to do stuff illegal when you have to vote on all this stuff and try to get it passed. And then you're telling me, well, even though we don't have a permitted thing, Alex, when I do it, give me a couple weeks. When we do it, I am going to hit you for not applying for a permit. And I'm like, really? So I'm kind of admitting that I did something wrong. So I'm paying for a permit, and then I'm going to pay for not applying for a permit when the town doesn't have a permit to apply for. So you're not breaking the law?
I'm breaking the law?
Yeah, telling me that you're going to do something like that. You're not breaking the law for the town?
No.
Being a selectman in your position?
No.
Okay.
Because that was what I said.
That's what you said to me.
What I said was the exact advice I got from legal.
Okay.
So if I'm breaking the law, then I guess they'll defend me.
And now we have to get everything in writing because that's your famous word. And how you say that I'm bullying you, you're the one that's being the bully because nobody seemed to know. It's been over a week. Nobody knows about this. Why are you pressing so much on this when they didn't know about this?
It's been over a week?
Yeah, I did it the 11th and it's the 20th.
And when did I find out about
it? I don't know, when did they find out about it? They found out about the day. So are you going to continue to say that I'm a liar?
They told me the Thursday, a week ago today, during department head meeting, sitting right here, is the first time we found about it.
Ooh.
That Friday I called legal.
I don't know, but I don't like you calling me a liar, okay? Because I'm not a liar.
When was I doing?
You called me a liar every time we were on the phone because they said that you didn't talk to them.
That's
and
correct.
you filmed it
That's correct.
or whatever.
That's
Well,
you can imply whatever you want, but that's correct. They did not, when they were in here, they said they didn't give you permission.
Well, you just heard him, so.
And he just said he didn't give you permission.
And he didn't say not to do it. They couldn't advise me to anything.
You're in the middle of it, what is it gonna do?
Wait a second, didn't I talk to you about it before I did it? Didn't we talk about it before? Not that you said go ahead and do it, we talked about it and you said it was out of your realm. And you said, go talk to Tommy. Then Tommy says, Al, we don't have any permanent. I don't know. He says, normally we tell the people, go put a telephone pole on your property. Then there's no questions asked. I says, well, you're doing the road over. I do this for a living. I says, I don't understand what the problem is. Why can't I do it before you guys do the road? He says, I don't see why not. But he says, go check code. He says, because I don't know what to tell you. And they all said they didn't know. It's not like they said go ahead, but it was implicated as like, we don't see why not. And I called them up that day I was doing it. Okay, so if you want, because Tommy did whatever, call him. Have him come down right now. And let's see what he has to say. And again, they were both there. They could have told me stop, rip it up. I would have. I would have said, give me a reason why.
Exactly, where would we have been? They didn't have a reason. But you were already in the middle of it.
But you're making it a reason. What's the reason? What did I do so wrong? That's what I want to know. You don't have a permit. I did something.
So what did you do so wrong?
Yeah, what did I do so wrong?
You cut through a town-owned road without permission, period.
I asked them and they said they didn't know and there ain't no permit.
They didn't give you permission.
Well, I
And
called,
he just
I called
said
the state and I called CMP and they were like, well,
the
it's
state and
it's
CMP
not,
doesn't own the road.
but you just
The
told,
CMP has to
you
ask
told
permission.
me, when you called me up, you said under state rule, section 35A,
That's right.
which that's only if towns wanna pick it. I already read it and I've already talked with the person that wrote it.
That says
I know
local
what it
authority-
is.
Local authority.
You must think I'm a retard. I've been doing this stuff over 20 years in construction. Don't sit there and look at me like I'm a retard, cause I'm not. You don't even know what the stuff is. Okay? Listen, I don't wanna go back and forth. If you wanna continue to say that I did something wrong, get Tommy down here now and let's see what he says. Or let's come to some agreement, which I'm willing to do, but I am not gonna admit that I did something wrong. And that's it. I'm not gonna pay for not applying for a permit when you didn't have one. If you wanna go get a permit, I'll do it. You want me to own that road if something goes wrong after you guys pave it? Fine. You want me to pay for that little patch? Fine, cause that's what I would've had to do. Normally, when they have a trench box permit in any town, that's what you have to do. I'm willing to do that. But I'm not gonna admit that I did something wrong. And I'm not gonna admit for not applying for some permit. For one, I've never had one. I don't know what they do. I don't know if it's just in towns or is it gonna be a mark on my corporation. I do federal jobs. I'm not gonna have a mark on my company, okay? Because, you know, you feel like, well, you didn't get a permit. Even though we don't have a permitted yet, Al, I gotta hit you with it. I'll pay the fine, but put it under administrative fee or something. Don't put it on as me admitting that I did something wrong. When I went to these people, they didn't know what to give me.
So let me end it here. When I had a conversation with you about this.
Yeah.
I was trying to give you the expectations. You were asking me what the fees were.
Yeah.
What the fee was gonna be, and I was trying to give you expectations. But I also said, I can't charge you a thing by myself. It's a board decision. So I may think that you ought to be owning a permit, but it's gonna be the board that decides.
No, but I understand that, but you told me this is
I was
what
trying
I'm
to
at.
give
You said this is what.
the expectation that
Then wait
to win it without a permit, because that is what I was advised by legal.
Alright.
So,
All
and
right.
it is, and I'll stand by it.
Alright, so let's move forward.
Do
and
you
let's
get
say-
fined 25? I don't know, it all depends on whether this board votes to fine you $25.
Well,
Beyond that, it's the permit, and I'm moving forward with it.
Well, you can do it under administrative fee, but you're not gonna do it as me not applying for a permit, cause I don't know where that goes. Does that stay in-house? I don't know, I've never had one. In all my years, I've never ever had one. You can call it, go call the corporation, annual reports, okay? I don't have nothing on my record, and that's my problem. I don't know what it does. I don't know what you guys do with it. Never had it happen to me. So, I just don't wanna admit to something that I didn't do. I'm strongly on that. So,
I hear you, I don't.
and I'm here willing to do whatever you guys wanna do, that's normal. And the trench box permanent, I'm okay with it. That's what the towns do. And I'll be liable for that road, I'll give, Tommy the road, will that money go to the road?
Yes, it has to be put in a separate account.
Alright, as long as it goes
By
to.
state law, it has to be put in a
Alright,
separate
so
account.
I'll pay whatever that permit is, like I said, it's only like friggin' for the hot top.
I think it's $50 a square yard.
Yeah, I know what it is, I do it, I know what it is. I ain't got a problem with it, I ain't got a problem. So, but I do have a problem, I'm not gonna admit that I did something wrong.
Okay.
And that's it. And if they told me that I had to come and get all you guys and have
Mike, are you done with Mike? Can I let Mike go?
Did you give him the mic? Well, go see him, please, cause he's probably gotta leave, thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Now I gotta make him put everything in writing too now?
Who?
Mike, anything I do?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, I'm talking explicit, cause the way you're saying explicit. If I pull a permit for tree cutting, I gotta have him come down and initial every tree and take a photo and all this stuff in case somebody comes back at me and says, oh, I didn't have permission to cut the tree.
No, I'm just saying, but he has a building permit, you have a building, he has to sign off on it, I mean, that's a sign off, he has to give permission.
It's tree cutting right now.
Okay, but
So what if I cut a wrong tree down?
I guess you
And if he didn't come out and initial it, then what?
take it to the extreme, whatever you want.
But that's what you said. Every time I said that, Tommy said this, well, they told me nothing. Do you got it in writing now? Did you got it in writing? Oh, I can't have phone conversations with people and shake your hand? We're not that way no more? Your word and your handshake ain't nothing?
No.
it's not.
It's pretty sad they gotta live like that.
So somebody comes to you and tells you that your employees are lying to you, what do? You don't stick up for your employees?
Oh, I get them all in a room and I try to make a happy medium. And I
And
look
somebody
and you
calls-
can
somebody-
see,
somebody
and you
calls-
can see how their body language is, and you know. I feel bad because I really like Mike and he does do a good job. He's the only one out of a lot of them. I mean, I can go into a horror story with the situation what the town did with my home, a 99 home, okay, that doesn't meet setbacks. Had a signed thing from Zeke Raynard when he was the code guy. My leach field's in the back of my house, never was. Where to make him happy, because it was a nightmare where I have to build this addition, okay? I had to go and I got into some legal problems with the people that owned the property out back, okay? But I just had to go buy an acre to make the town happy. I didn't come after you guys. I didn't say, look, I got a signed thing from Zeke Raynard saying my septic's there. It's not out there. How can I have a septic when it would be over a hill with a bank on somebody else's property? My porch didn't even meet the 25-foot setback to the other guy's property. Know what I'm saying? I didn't. I like this town. This town is good to my family, other than, well, the city stuff, whatever. But I'm talking the schools and so forth, okay? I got nurses that go to the school once a week to stretch my daughter, okay? No questions asked and they call us or whatever, all right? I appreciate that stuff. Also, when the fire department wanted something from me, I tore down that building for them for free that they had that trailer. I didn't charge them, they asked. Okay? Anytime anybody needed anything here, I would do it. Okay? And all I asked permission for something that nobody could give me an answer. What was I supposed to do? I didn't know that you have to go to a selectmen board meeting. I thought that was only for new construction. You know? They should have advised me and said. I didn't know. I asked though, like you normally go to other towns. You go to the road people and you go to code. You know, I don't go to the mayor. Don't say, hey, man, I gotta talk to you. That's why these people are in positions. You know, maybe this is an eye-opener. I don't know. I don't know if this is gonna be bad now, because what if people, it is a national law, and if you are gonna implicate the trench box thing, make sure that you put if roads are newly paved.
It's a 5-year moratorium.
Yeah, that, because people will expect to be able to cut, period.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I would hate to have to see that, you know what I mean? Because these roads are bad. You know, so again, I don't want to really fight anymore. I'm just mad because of 2 reasons. I'm not a liar, okay? And I'm doing this stuff for my daughter, and that's it. And then we're gonna have another issue later with that waterfront property. You know, with the taxes and stuff. You know, on that. So that's gonna be later down the road. Because we just closed on that today. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah.
Remember it was split and you guys were gonna put it back to 1? Remember you said 6 they were gonna
Would
do
you
it?
just buy them both?
I bought them both.
Well, then.
But they're not split. It's one parcel registered at Alfred D. You guys split it for tax purposes.
Yes.
You might very well have, yeah.
And you're charging over $200,000 for under 10,000 square feet, where you can't put a home on, half of it's underwater. Okay? And I bought it because, again, I live in a neighborhood where there are scumbag people, sorry, and I'm not gonna bring my kid down. I have to keep her mobile to try to keep her out of a friggin' wheelchair. So here's one means, let's go swimming, let's try to, you know what I mean? Do something. So I have to do everything possible so I don't have to subject myself or whatever with other people that are unreasonable. And that's where, you know, we're at, because we're probably gonna be called on that, because I showed him pictures. They threw tampons, diapers, crap everywhere down there. It's disgusting, and I don't understand how people can live like that. But anyhow,
You're not the only one that has land combined as one on waterfront.
I don't know how they did that when it's 2 separate people. It's 2 separate people. I've got Kimball Estate that's in probate. I have to pay them, and then I had to pay another heir that just got married. So again, I'm not damning the town. I love it here. Okay? And I really don't get into the political stuff because I'm too busy, okay? I work my ass off. I got enough crap that I have to deal with. I don't like to deal with it at my home, my homestead. And you know the saying, don't shit where you live? I live by that. I don't do that. I try not to do that. but I'm not gonna be forced to be called a liar. I'm not, cause that's not me. So I don't know what we can do. If we can do something, I'm all on it, but I'm not gonna admit that I did something wrong.
Alright.
You know, and we'll just take it from there. And I don't know why I have this bad feeling towards you, and I think you have this bad feeling with me. I don't know, maybe it's our personalities, I don't know, but we'll see how the outcome comes. You know, if we can all work together, great. You know, and if I hurt your feelings, I'll be a man and I'll apologize, but I'm not apologizing until we see where we're at. You know, not to be a douchebag or whatever, but that's just the way I am.
Alright.
Okay?
No problem.
And that's it. And I'm sorry for aggravating you, cause I had to, cause let me tell you something, I lost my temper, I probably would've went to jail.
I know.
If I didn't have you, I'm telling you, I love you, you know, you've always been, you know, the reasonable one. You know, you're like the father and the grandfather I never had. He's like, all right, Alec. Nobody calls me that, you know, just my grandfather. When he says Alec, I'm like, wow, that's my grandfather talking to me. So I appreciate that. So, but I really don't want to fight. I just don't see what I did wrong because I've done so many of them, you know, in this town. So, but I do understand what you're saying. You do have a valid point where you're saying it's a town road and so forth. There should have been something for us to kind of go on. And I figured where you guys were paving it, because I knew when you guys were doing it and so forth. I've been holding off for over a year on this. You know what I'm saying? And I talked with Tommy. How would I know these things? And wait when after you're done paving, right? You're gonna get so many phone calls because they're gonna ask you, when are you gonna come and pave the rest of it in there? You wait.
You do realize that a handshake is not, you need it in writing in this town. You have learned that, right?
Now,
Right,
but I'm still old school. I try to be, you
Right,
know?
but that's not how it works in this town.
Yeah.
And I've only been permanent resident for 5 years, and I learned quickly that a handshake does not cover it.
I would not,
Even my friend here has been my friend
I would
forever.
not say the town in general. I'm just saying. A handshake is not necessarily for business works.
No,
But I
it's
would
not.
not say it doesn't work for this town, because if I shake somebody's hand, you damn straight I'll keep my word.
Right.
So to say that I won't,
Alright, so
part of
let's
this
say,
town.
we're gonna come to an agreement and we shake hands. Is that gonna be good?
I like
Are we gonna come to some agreement?
Well, I don't know what the agreement is, I don't wanna shake
But
your
we're-
hand without knowing an agreement.
But we're gonna come to some agreement where we're both gonna be somewhat happy.
I'm hoping that,
Alright.
I'm gonna try
We're
for that,
hoping.
I'm gonna try for that, alright? Alright.
Thank you.
You done, Alex? I was supposed to be.
Yeah, poor Joanne's waiting.
Alright,
Come on.
we're not talking anymore about this anyways, cause I'm still working on it. So you weren't here earlier, I'm working on the policy, I got like different.
I just wanted to hear what I mainly came down not to interfere. I just came down because I didn't want my name to be said like I did something, you know what I mean, without permission. That's my only reason why I came here.
Okay.
So.
Alright,
Thank you.
we're good. You wanna talk to us about cemeteries?
Yes, shall I move on?
What do you need?
Yes,
We're
move
talking
on.
about cemeteries now.
Alex,
Alright, what do you need?
where are
Joanne's
from?
on.
Boston?
Chelsea, Revere.
I just said.
Okay,
My words were.
so, I hear that you folks have,
Yeah.
taken
What do
over.
you have in that bag?
Well, just in case you ask you some questions.
Okay, I'm like, oh, she's.
Alright, and just so you know that, when I became involved in the North Lebanon Cemetery Association, Henry Stewart and, Glenn Garrish had taken care of it for many, many years. Hi, Jordan.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
And,
Oh, can I just make one comment? He's very worried about his rum cake.
Oh, I'll get you one.
He is very
You
worried.
know what, I'm gonna get everybody.
No, I can't, it's like ethics, I can't do it, but I'm just saying, somehow you gotta slip him a rum cake so he's happy.
You did say someone was gonna bring you
now what about my cannolis you used to
I know.
bring me?
Oh,
Jeez.
geez,
I had Summer learn how to make the dip. She's doing good. Now I don't have to go to Boston.
Oh.
Alright, thank you, and I appreciate it, Chip, alright? Bye
Okay.
guys.
Bye.
Bye, Alice. Gee, that's a hot act to follow.
Oh, Hannah.
Anyway,
Sorry.
Does he like me?
I think he does,
I didn't
Paul.
expect that.
That's
You're
fine,
like in
that's
the
fine. I know what
family.
happens when you're at board meetings. So the North Lebanon Cemetery Association has been around for 100+ years. And usually once you become involved, you kind of get stuck doing it for many, many years.
Until you die and buried.
Yeah, exactly. So Glenn and Henry really needed some help, and so they had a meeting, and I went with my mom, and Paul Philbrick was another crazy person who went. So Paul and I ended up being recruited to be part of the team. And of course, then I recruited my brother Mark Stewart to also be part of our team. Just because it's really a time-consuming thing when you're involved in the cemetery, because you have no control over when the funeral home is gonna call you, and you have to go over and mark graves. So Glenn and Henry had done it a long time, and they really wanted an exit plan. So pretty much Mark, my brother Mark, Paul, and I have been doing everything up there for the last decade. And it's weird, sometimes there's not a whole lot going on, but like last week I must have spent 10 hours or so during the workday working on cemetery stuff. And I work for my brothers, and they're very good about letting me leave to go meet people at the cemetery, to mark graves, to meet Tommy Boucher up there. He's our main grave digger. And also the funeral homes will call. It's really a lot going on, and it doesn't seem like it, but there's a lot happening with the cemetery. So anyway, I'll try answer any questions. We just go by the things that the workbook that Glenn and Henry made for us, kind of gave us a little guideline of what to do. Paul, when we sell lots, and we've created an area where we're selling single lots, because no one wants the big gigantic 36 casket lots anymore.
So is it a private cemetery then?
It's an association.
So it's an association that owns that,
Yes.
that owns that land basically, and
Yes.
and the whatever, so there's no perpetual care or anything else?
It's all, when people buy the lots, that the perpetual care, that's really what you're paying for when you buy the lot.
Okay.
That's the problem with those, is it's so old that when they were
Yeah.
buying lots for whatever it was, $10,
$2.
yeah, $2, and that was supposed to take care of it forever.
120 years ago.
Yeah, here we are now,
Yeah.
that's never ever gonna take care of it.
No, and it doesn't. And yeah. And years ago.
And so when you guys run out of plots to sell, then you're gonna have a problem, because that's the one that's funding your current operations,
Well,
correct?
what's actually funding the operation now is we have money in the bank. We have a CD that has about 50,000 in it. But in the old days, when you got a lot of interest, we could pretty much, it was before my time, you remember when interest rates were so high, the amount of money that we had could easily take care of the mowing for the season. Well, that's not the case anymore. We might get $20 a year in interest, so. So that's why we fix the back part of it, and we are selling single lots, cause mainly people want like a cremation or something, and so it's, yeah, so.
How much do you get for one lot?
Well, we, because it's a small town cemetery, for a single lot, we charge $400. And I know that's not expensive, but there are no perks with our cemetery. I mean, we don't have a superintendent that takes care of it, other than me and my brother and Paul. I mean, with the people that deal with everything.
You hire Tommy to dig the grave?
No, that is, we tell the funeral home,
Okay.
and then the family will pay the grave digger. We stayed out of that. A lot of cemeteries, they collect the fee and then they pay their grave digger, but we are too small, and we really wanted to keep it simple the way it always had been, with just, really money going out paying for the mowing, and an occasional lot that we'd sell.
And, I mean, the town pays for half the mowing, right?
Yeah, and that is because of the veterans that are buried
Right.
there. And many years ago when it's many years ago, the town had some of the money and the cemetery association had some of the money. It was years ago when people that you wouldn't recognize the name, but like Doris Woodman was involved, and I mean, then it split maybe 40 years ago, and the town gave the cemetery the money back, so we were in charge of. The town would still owe for the veterans, that's why we've always split it 50-50 for mowing. And it's a large cemetery, I don't know if you've been up there, but it's a large cemetery, and you really need, I know Jordan told me a fantastic deal he got on mowing, but I don't understand how anyone can mow for, I mean,
Yeah, that guy, the bid we got this year will never ever, I mean, there's no cemetery ever that's gonna get as lucky as we did for as cheap as that was.
I can't imagine, because you have to have someone who knows how to mow a cemetery, because you get stones that are ancient stones, and you don't want someone that is not used to working around them, because they can get damaged, and then that falls on us to try to repair them, and that can be an expense.
How do you end up repairing those with the limited funds that you have from interest?
Stephen Roy, he's been wonderful to us, he'll come out and kind of survey the stones and let us know which ones he can fix, and that does come out of our money. And sometimes if I know the people, we'll pay for the stones where the air, there's nobody around anymore. But if someone in town that's still alive, that, we can contact them and say, hey, did you know this? And then they would take care of it. Cemeteries, I think, are really becoming a thing of the past. More and more people are, buying lots because they get cremated and then they have their heirs sprinkle their ashes wherever. Anyway.
It just seems like that one there is almost just like any of the cemeteries on the side of the road, it's just bigger, but there's nobody around anymore that's really, I mean, there's a few left, like people that own plots that can be buried there, but for the most part, they're all so old and they're never gonna.
So in Prospect Hill, are there some plots that are there that aren't filled?
Yeah,
People have
supposedly
bought
there's a couple, but like when you were here when he came and he said that you have to make sure you like press the ground before you bury anybody in those plots, cause there could be somebody that was buried there before.
I thought he told us he didn't have any.
There's no more for sale, but there's a couple empty ones that.
Yeah,
Yeah, we do that too.
Right?
I don't think it was a significant amount, cause he said that.
They told us it was over 40 graves that were purchased but had not been utilized yet.
I didn't think he said, maybe he did, but I thought he said it was less than 40, but, and even if it's 40, it's not.
About 40? I'm pretty sure.
No, maybe you're right, I'm not arguing with you, it doesn't matter, but what I'm saying is that it's not, it's not like an active cemetery anymore, there's not somebody going in there every year either.
So for you don't have to, it's like with me, I have to be around and meet people to go up there to bury people. But it doesn't sound like you have that activity, all you really need someone is to mow your cemetery.
The mowing, and then there's, I don't know if you've been up there, but there's a lot of like broken stones and it needs a lot of work, it's not.
And we have a bunch of perpetual care funds that, are minuscule.
Yeah, that's the trouble.
That yes, they can be pooled together for interest, but then that interest still has to be allocated to all these individual lots.
Right, and some of them are, you went through, but what are they, like $1 sometimes, or
Right, and how
almost
do
nothing?
I use $1 to fix a gravestone? I mean, I don't, where I'm actually looking at finding, and it may be a matter of going back to probate or whoever I have to go back to, but finding a way to pool all the interest.
Yeah.
So that I can then say, well, let's fix 3 stones this year and 2 stones next year, and rather than never being able to fix a stone or having to wait 100 years before enough money is in the account, in that one person's account, so I can.
There's gotta be a way, unless it was just so many years ago that they didn't have, they just let it happen. Because that's what happened for us. I mean, I remember the town reports, they used to have the little, like the small amounts of money per lot.
Yep.
Well, then when they switched it over, they combined everything. So, that was gosh, it must have been at least 40 years ago
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
that they did that. Maybe even more.
Well, this one was the same thing, it was, Lebanon had control of some of the money for a little bit, and then it went back to Milton, and then
Yeah.
Milton had control of all of it, but supposedly Lebanon still had control of like, but this was so many years ago that it's never.
Well, I'm looking through the documents, actually, when I went to Milton, that was probably, it was a legal opinion that was actually illegal.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well,
it
you-
stayed that way until obviously fairly recently, but, because again, everything's in Lebanon, it was town of Lebanon.
From what I was told from some older residents here in town, was the reason that it went over to Milton is that Lebanon wasn't caring for the perpetual graves of the Milton people. And it was, since it was mostly Milton people that was being buried in there, Milton agreed to set up an account and take over it, and Lebanon
Right.
just kind of handed it over, it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
like a
yeah.
hostile takeover.
No, I know that,
Yeah, it was an agreed upon thing because there were so many Milton residents being buried there, and Lebanon wasn't putting somebody on it to take care of the graves, and so Milton had somebody that would do it, and that's how that happened.
So it sounds like our cemeteries are set up a little bit differently. I mean, you guys have a bigger headache than we do. Ours is just pretty much, you know.
Well, I mean, if you look at this one too, it's on the worst hill ever, and it's not like an ideal spot for a cemetery, not
Yeah.
that there's an ideal spot to put dead people, but it's not really like the ideal spot for.
Gives you have to shore up the grave sites and do some maintenance. See that's it's gonna be expensive for maintaining that. But I don't think, I think the rules for cemeteries, I found it very difficult to get any tax information from the IRS for our cemetery, so good luck with using the federal government for anything when it comes to these, cause they pretty much, they don't care, they just wash their hands of it and let you do whatever you wanna do. And the thing, truly too, with the cemetery, I mean, is there anybody around? Wouldn't people prefer that you use the funds to fix stones so the whole cemetery looks good?
Right, well, that would be the argument to go to probate
Yeah.
if that's even an option, I'm looking at that, see if that's even an option, but that would be my argument is, it's for the greater good of everything, so, but,
Like why the town could just almost eat the cost of, not really eat the cost, but the town could mow it, but we could use that money to actually make it look like not a graveyard, but it's all just broken stones and it really, I mean, it's in bad shape, it's not.
Deborah, do you have anything to add from being on the cemetery committee?
The only thing that we had discussed is that there are so many smaller cemeteries in town, and then we have Prospect Hill. Of course, we didn't go even bother with Forest Grove because we knew that they were caring for that themselves and it was still an active cemetery. But my question about like Forest Grove, which it has been all along, is what happens when all of those graves are sold? Because after it gets a certain age, that's coming over, and I know it won't be your concern, we'll probably be long dead and buried ourselves,
Maybe not.
but and,
Don't tempt me.
but the town is responsible, anything that has any stone in it that is older than 1880, the town is responsible, so even if
Oh, yeah.
Forest Grove has like 10,
Oh, we've got more than
once
that.
those are all sold and there's no more profit, or I know you're not making a huge profit, that's not what I mean to say, but no more sustainable income, I guess I should say, into that will also be at some time coming over to Lebanon. So why we wanted to create a cemetery committee was because we have so many, and really honestly, they're all horribly maintained. A few people will go out and mow the grass in it if it's on their property. A few of them you try to get to, and you got people coming out with shotguns like you're not coming on my property. Some people will let the dogs out on you, and people don't understand that the town is actually legally responsible to care for them. So that's why we tried to create a cemetery committee, but every time that we gave an opinion or tried to get something done, we were told it was beyond the scope of our little committee, and they didn't even want to deal with us, and it was a constant argument. So when our appointments expired, we stopped meeting because we just kept being told that we had no we were the cemetery committee, but we had no say in the cemeteries, so. So that's where we are, is that we just started to categorize some of the older ones, and we just kept waiting for something to come through that our opinion or our aid might be needed, but in the term of our appointment, it did not happen, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I don't really know what the answer is, and partly it's because I still don't know what my options, all my options are, I mean, in my mind, in my mind, it makes sense to have a comprehensive policy on cemeteries throughout town.
Yeah.
That's consistent, that's written down, so that somebody new comes in, that there's a process in place, that this happens year after year after year, so it becomes the standard process. And so that's, you know, and certainly now with Prospect Hill, we've got a trust fund, we have money that we need to be accounting for. All the others don't have any money to them, so we have to take care of them anyways, but I mean, so it's just it's a bunch of, and again, you know, Forest Grove, eventually that, and I agree, because once all the plots are sold.
Well, it's gonna, I mean, we've got a lot of room over there.
I mean,
Right, it was,
We
like
don't
I said,
sell-
we'll
It may be 100 years, but it also could be that they don't wanna handle it anymore and they wanna give it to the town.
Right.
Or give it to somebody if we have a process in place that can do that, I mean.
Right, because they're already experiencing the fact that the interest is not enough to take care of it, so, I mean, there could be trouble there down the line, and they may have to say, and not saying they're ditching it, but they may have to say, the town needs to provide care for the cemetery because it has what they term ancient graves in it, and also veterans' graves, which the town is responsible for mowing veterans' graves, so, and, you know, that's near and dear to both of our hearts, the veterans' graves, so, I mean, it's our job really to care for it, but we don't have a cemetery committee anymore, we don't have cemetery employees, we don't have anybody who's designated to go and cut brush in some of these cemeteries. Some of the ones on River Road are just horrific, and there are veterans' graves in there that aren't being cared for, has brush this high, you can't even get over to the veterans' grave, and then when you finally make your way through the brush, somebody's gone around and clipped like a little circle around the grave of the veteran, and that's it, you know, so, you know, it's hard, and we had, the Venture Club, here in town was willing to come and work with us, but we couldn't get board approval to actually go and do this stuff, so it kind of fell by the wayside because the appointments ended and we just didn't wanna deal with that.
What do you guys think?
I think we have a lot of research to do, I don't know.
Well, and if you are ever thinking, and didn't mean to interrupt while you start your deliberation, but if you are thinking that, and to be honest with you, I mean, I wouldn't mind not doing this forever. My brother's very busy, and Paul's, even though he's retired, I mean, he's busy, and it's hard for us to get things done. But if you do take over Forest Grove, you're gonna have to have someone will be able to meet people up at the cemetery and mark the graves and take the phone calls from the, you know, and so that's gonna be an expense to the town, cause you're gonna have to pay someone to do that and write up the deeds, you know, so that's an expense. So as long
We had
as,
suggested having a cemetery person, a hired, accountable to the town cemetery person that,
but
you know,
that's an
that
added
oversees
expense, and but right now, Paul, Mark and I can handle it for.
And you're doing a great job.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Laura.
You're doing a great job.
But that's the
No, I
thing though,
hear
you know,
you,
and you
yeah.
always have to think, when you add an employee, that's not just their hourly wages, a lot
Right.
more to
Yeah,
it, and
absolutely.
you have to
Oh
have the
yeah, I
right.
wasn't saying that the town should take it from you guys.
No,
It's
well,
beautiful over
no,
there, trust me,
you
I
know
go.
what, maybe let's plant the seed.
I go over there to walk sometimes and it's very nice over there,
Thank
it's
you.
very nice.
The trolley tour went through there.
Oh, they
It
did,
is.
yeah. So anyway, that's just another thing to think of too, I mean, if you do have
Yeah,
to.
absolutely.
And it's gonna be the right person, because when people call they need someone to
Oh,
listen to
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
And like, it's kind of like my social worker time.
Yeah,
you know, and
absolutely.
that's what I enjoy. I do enjoy talking to the people that
Yeah.
need an ear, but. So anyway, I'll be happy to help with anything, but I don't know what I can help you with, cause I think you are dealing with problems that we don't experience at all.
Would you be willing to be on a cemetery committee?
Maybe when I get off the school board.
What's that?
I have one,
Wednesdays.
I have one more year.
She was gonna just have one more year, but now she's gonna run again.
Now she's thinking, yeah, you know,
It depends on if anybody wants to run, I wouldn't just leave it at that, I would, this is my, will be my 15th year, so I think it's time to let someone else have an opportunity. I love that, but that's a lot of time. My husband would like me home on Thursday nights, occasionally. I don't know why, he's never there, but you know. So I would definitely think about that if I wasn't on the school board.
Would you be willing to be a guest if we can come up with a committee?
Yes, if you serve cookies, yeah.
I'm sure I can get that arranged.
I don't-
That's my thinking is that I'd like to reinstitute or create that cemetery committee again, because again, it's, if this body of three tries to do everything, we're never gonna get things done, and there's a lot of things that need to be done, and I'd rather have some people that have that focus to do that. It just makes more sense to me.
well, I think it would be good to put it out there and what their role is too, because, you know, some people might think, oh, I can be on that committee, and it's like, well, it's a little more
Yeah, I mean,
than,
you're gonna have to have somebody that can like, even say there's 50 lots left, they're gonna have to coordinate where the lots are, how to deal with the grave digger coming out, funeral home. It's not, I mean, it's,
Right, you
I know
can't
it's
just
not
go
all
up
the
there.
time, but it's not like a
pray.
5-minute process when somebody dies, it's.
It's
Right.
in the spur of the moment, you gotta know what you're doing right
Right.
then.
You have to know where the open graves are so
Yeah.
that you're not digging somebody up by mistake and, you know, it is a lot of work, it's a lot of mapping and figuring things out.
In those old cemeteries, there are people buried that aren't marked.
oh yeah,
That's why you always have, it's unmarked, there are a lot of unmarked graves.
Great.
I know, huh?
So I think we at least start with that, trying to see if we can't get some sort of a committee together. I'll say that at least the committee has my backing. I think I speak for the others, they has their backing as well. Cause I'm looking for solutions, I'm looking for ideas, I'm
Look
looking
at
for.
thing, cause Lean and Paula are both watching to see look at the video and say, Lean and Paula, come back.
Elaine and Paula, come back. So, I'm just,
right.
It's.
Yeah, and
It's
if
just-
we can figure out what the, you know, what their duties are gonna be or what their job is, so that people will know what they're volunteering for.
We'll try to figure that out before we put it out there or some
Yeah,
some
just
Yeah,
so-
because that was the biggest problem, is that we never knew, we could never get any direction on where our scope of work ended, even where it began, we were just kind of out there. And so that was, and then we'd make a decision to come to the board as a group, and we'd come and they'd go like, oh yeah, no, that's not your, so every thing we tried to do was not our job, but yet we really.
Well, I guess I understand what you're saying, but partly is I'm not sure what they should be in charge of.
Well, but I think they
I'm not
need to
sure
know
what they
that.
should look at.
I don't know, that's what I'm saying.
So I almost want to let them be blind for right now. Let me know, let us create what the duties, let them talk, we need to.
Well, if people came and they created a committee and they came to you and could speak to you and say like, is this what you want us to do, or do you want us to do this? If we could feel it out together.
I think that's
Instead
best,
of constantly being said,
because you're looking at the graves at the cemeteries and saying, this needs to be done, or this needs to be done, let's try to, so again, I think that's, because I don't know, obviously there's an administration of Prospect Hill. So there's that part that we do have to deal with. And I don't know how much of that I can give to a committee versus a trustee, because we have trust funds. So that part,
Right.
I don't wanna say that they're now in charge of, a committee is in charge of that.
Right.
I think that's way premature.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they can help map, they can help that kind of stuff, but I need to kind of feel my way through understanding the trust. I'm also working with legal to see if maybe there's a way that we can restructure it so that it, and then maybe once we do that, we do have a board of trustees for Prospect Hill.
Right,
And
I
then
think
maybe-
that the committee and the trustees need to be two.
Well,
I mean, you can.
not
individual,
necessarily.
but I
I'm
don't
sa-
think
I'm
that the
saying-
whole committee should all be trustees.
I'm saying right now, it's just a committee. The committee members, some of them may very well become trustees or be asked to be trustees, but and that may be the transition, because once you have a board of trustees, you probably don't need a committee anymore. 'Cause that's kind of the trustees' work, so
Right.
I'm looking at a committee right now, let's gather input, and then my guess is eventually they're gonna be transitioned, some of them anyways, to trustee positions. And I would like to as well incorporate the rest of the cemeteries in town under that umbrella. That's my big picture, I guess, is.
And I think that was, I don't know, Dana might not agree, but I'm pretty sure that was, and we never really talked about trustees, but the description you're saying kind of sounds like where we were trying to go is put all of the cemeteries so that people know where, we'll be out in this area doing these cemeteries on this day. And I mean, we were volunteering, we were out there, cutting brush and all that stuff, volunteering in some of these smaller cemeteries, and we still couldn't get, any feedback.
And I would mention that now that we have a grant writing committee, there's probably some grants out there, I'd gather, that might fall into this category, certainly about old
I'm a member of the Maine
old veteran graves.
And there are a lot of grants through the Maine Old Cemetery Committee. They kind of filter from other places and they make them known, so I joined that when we made that committee, so. There are quite a few, and actually the Maine Old Cemetery Committee, if I could have gone last year, I would have loved to have gone, but they have actually seminars on how to prepare some of these broken stones so that you're not putting like concrete in them and they have big spaces, and it's it's pretty detailed on how to repair the old stones, but it can be done like right on a local level, or if you had funding from heirs or something, you could, you can actually send it out. If they're veterans and the stone is broken, a lot of times you can just contact the VA, they'll give you a whole nother stone for free. For that veteran, it's not their original stone, but it marks their grave, so, I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can go about marking graves that have like completely worn down field stone, headstones, but like I said, we were working with the guy from, the Springvale Veterans Cemetery on some of these, local veterans' graves, and we just couldn't get any backing, so nothing got done. I mean, we weren't even looking for financial backing, but we couldn't even get the dollar.
No, I mean, eventually that's gonna have to come into the play as well, is some sort of funding to take care of the,
That's pricey, I assume, to do the stones and repair that, is that expensive?
What Steve has done for us in the past, so he'll just look at them, and I could probably find an old invoice in here, and it's not that bad. I mean, he's incredibly reasonable. He kind of maintains them for us.
I've seen them over there, he does
He does
a
a
really nice
great
job. I mean, if you go over to Rochester and see some of them, they have like, there's the bottom part of the stone and there's this much concrete and there's the top. But the ones over at Forest Grove are done very
Yeah,
nice.
he's good. And then just, I wanna clarify something too. Paul, Mark and I are total volunteers. And the only expenses we have at the cemetery are mowing and Steve Roy. That's all we ever pay out unless we needed some gravel to fix a patch.
Yep.
But that's it. So we're totally volunteers.
Well, food for thought.
That's a huge project for you guys.
But it's something that needs to be passed on to people that are really interested in it, because it's very important to
Oh, yeah.
maintain them.
Absolutely.
You got a few more years in you, I hope.
Thank you, Joanne.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Glad I didn't have to bring out all my books to show you all the stuff, but if you ever wanna see them, just let me know.
Okay.
Alright, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Have a
Joanne.
good evening.
You too.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. And you live in Office Grove?
Can we just give it back to Milton?
Huh? Or we could ask her to take it over.
I mean, I think our situation is different than hers.
Oh, it is.
When I had to do business with a cemetery in Somersworth, all they had was 5 trustees. They made all the decision.
Well, that's why if it's a trustee is more of a legal thing. And that way, literally, we give control about the
They
cemeteries
had
to,
complete control.
yeah, it's autonomous from the selectmen, and that's my whole point is then it takes it out of, cause I don't know who the selectman's gonna be in 5 years or in 10 years
Absolutely.
and.
Well, it's just something that you guys shouldn't even have to think about anyway. It should just be somebody that's taking care of it and it's like
There's-
out of sight, out of mind, but it's
Right.
getting
Well,
done the right way.
Yeah.
I mean,
They
you don't
have a
time.
trustee.
Huh?
No.
Prospect Hill has a
I
trustee.
know they do,
So you're
and
the
he's,
one that
and he's
they-
young,
And he's young. He's got the
50 years.
He's got the 50 years in it. Well, I think that's good.
Well,
No.
let's go.
So,
There we go. Paul.
so, do you guys wanna see if we can't
Yeah, I mean, I would
reconstitute
put it out there to see if people are interested in being on it, you know, just put it out there and
Why
see.
don't we decide what we're gonna do? We're gonna have a committee or we're gonna have trustees?
No, we're having a.
So we're not doing a trustee yet. We're not
Can't do
even, we're not there. I would like to move that direction,
Okay,
but we have a ton of
Yeah.
work we have to do
Can't
before
do
we go
that.
there. So to help us do that work, I wanna have a committee that can help
okay.
do some of that research for us. And then hopefully we can transition to that way. That's the big picture. It may take a year or two, but we'll get there. It's not gonna happen overnight.
Right.
It'll probably, before all of them in town can be incorporated, brought into it and analyzed and looked over and made suggestions on and completed, and so it'll probably be a 3 to 5 year project is what we had.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Because they're just a lot of work.
Yeah,
that needs to be
well, no,
done.
I
Yeah.
agree. It's a, and again, to do trustees, you have to have a trust document. And there's legal stuff that goes with that, and that
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight.
No.
So, and I don't know whether you have this little plot, are all the cemeteries, is it town land or is it private land?
So some of them are on private land,
But if it's
However,
a veteran
the way-
cemetery, we still have to,
absolutely, and if it has even a single stone in it that's over 1880, the town is responsible to take care of it.
but what if
So-
they don't allow us access, cause it's their land?
The state law provides for if there is a cemetery on there, the landowners need to be told by the selectmen or by the state or whoever, the landowners need to provide a means of access to the cemetery. They can choose how they can tell you, hey, you have to make 6 circles around my house and then go left at the wishing well, however they want you to go.
Yeah.
Once they declare that that's how, it's kind of like a right of way, but they don't have to deed it to you. But they can choose your access to the cemetery. And, but once they've, acknowledged that that's the access, it's public access to that cemetery, because it could be somebody out there doing their genealogy, it could be somebody wanting to come and just sit by the grave of their 8th generation great
So if it's
grandfather.
not an old grave and not a veteran, then as on private land, then we
That
have,
is still
we
there.
have no responsibility?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, the only responsibility the town has is if there's even a single grave in there that's older than 1880, or if there's a single veteran's grave. The way the wording is in that is that the town is responsible for taking care of the veteran's grave. So like I said, literally, I've seen some of them where there's like a little circle cut around the veteran's grave, and then there's 80 other graves in there that are in various stages of overgrowth, so you know, I mean, it's kinda.
Yep.
There are several that, I've been alerted to that I come on, I mean, there's trees down and there, big trees down and, I mean, it's real, and
And how much do we have in here that are public versus private? Are they mostly private?
they're mostly on private property.
Mostly on private?
Right,
Cause there are family cemeteries on the family.
because they started out as, family cemetery.
And I mean, all over Maine is the same thing.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, the former, well, not just former, but the former board used to tell us that that fell, you know, if we saw trees and stuff like that, that fell under Tommy's job. I mean, we could never figure out why we were supposed to be calling Tommy to come out and help us remove a tree, but that's what we were told, and of course, Tommy's always busy, so it was near to impossible, and not his fault, he was doing other things, but you know, if you got a tree that's getting ready to fall over and crush 30 graves in a wall, it should be coming down, but we could never get anybody to come out and do that, and then we'd go back a while later and there it would be, you know, so. But just to let you know, I've been continuing to work on this, I still field all those questions from Dale, she sends them to me. And we just, for a lady from Seattle, we just found her ancestor, well, I should say I just went out and took pictures of her ancestors' graves, which are like out in the middle of the woods down off the Hubbard Road, and sent them out to her in Seattle, very thrilled with that, so. You know, it helps to start knowing who's buried where too, you know?
Alright, well, do we wanna make a motion to establish a cemetery committee? Do we wanna do that?
Oh, I thought you wanted a motion to adjourn.
I don't think we're there yet, Paul.
It's only 7:05, come
We're
on.
not there yet, Paul.
Yeah.
We won't be as late as last time, let's put it that way. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
You have a question?
Yeah, just one second.
We wanna do that, or?
Well, sure,
Yeah.
put it out there and see
Yeah.
who wants to,
Alright, let's make a motion to create a cemetery committee, I'm not gonna put a number on it yet, cause I don't know. If they're all committed, the more the merrier almost, so,
Elaine, Paula, come back.
yeah, I'll second.
all those in favor? Okay. One more committee. I like committees, but part of me doesn't like to have 10 million committees and all this,
Well, yeah.
but,
It's easier if you break the work up and.
yeah, no, I know, I hear you.
Yeah.
So, are you the first volunteer?
We could volunteer together. He's the tool man, I'm the camera lady, so he comes with his car full of tools and we cut stuff and I come take pictures and we're doing.
So is that a yes?
I don't know, I'll have to see where the comprehensive planning committee is going, cause that's looking like it. may take
That's
us
gonna
a
be
while.
input on cemeteries.
We'll talk about it.
Alright.
Put it out there and see how many.
We will,
You're right, I'm only
alright.
one person.
Alright, anything else on cemeteries? I'm still gonna try on the legal side to figure out,
Well, I think
If
we
we
gotta
can-
do something with that,
cause we gotta,
gotta do something.
cause that one is, we got money that we're responsible for, I gotta understand.
Mhm.
And I wanna find out, I really wanna see if I have an option of, I know I can pool the money for investments.
Mhm.
But let's say I've got an investment pool of $100 and one of them is 10.
Mhm.
That means 10% of all that interest has to be put for that one plot.
Mhm.
And I got $5 on another, so $5 for the other one, 5% has to go there. So that's the,
Yeah, I agree.
and rather than, what I'd like to do is be able to say, I got $100 worth of interest. And I can use that wherever I want in that cemetery to make it better. That's kind of where I'm.
I mean, my personal thought on that tip is that if you're gonna do that and combine that and stuff, leaving that with the treasurer is not a bad idea, so you don't have to have like actual trustees, none. Leaving
Well,
that,
if that's the case right now, yes, but it's
if
still,
it's a whole thing with like all the cemeteries in town, leaving that with the treasurer so that the people vote to take care of all the cemeteries and then the treasurer just makes out the checks when they, you know, I mean, that's not.
I don't know if you can do Prospect Hill with all the cemeteries though.
no.
Well, actually,
I wouldn't think
Unless I could.
your legal department was working on that, so you may wanna check with Mary because she
I've already talked to Mary.
and she said that you can't do it
She didn't
because
say,
that was.
she didn't bring any of that up.
ask her about it, because that was supposedly in the works, correct? Was that she was working with the, is it the AG, right? The Attorney General is the only one that can give the okay to merge all those trusts into one trust fund. And Mary, we were told, was working with the Attorney General in order to combine all of those small trusts, all of those deeded small trusts into one larger trust for the Prospect Hill Cemetery. I mean, we were told for well over a year, right, that she was working on that, right? It was a year.
And you always believe what you're told?
No, not always, but in that case, I mean, if you haven't asked her if she's been doing that, you know.
I asked her, I had
She said,
I had a long
they were
conversation
full
with
of
her,
crap?
I had a long conversation with her about this topic, about combining. And that never came up about, she's already talked to the AG,
That's
nothing.
absolutely amazing, isn't it?
So, and she just sent me a big email about talking about how it can be combined for pools, for investments, but, and again, nothing of
But
that,
not
nothing
because they're
came
all
up.
individually deeded?
Nope.
Yeah, because that's that was the
So, I'm
conversation
just-
that was over and
I
over again, was
I
that
can
she was
ask,
working
I
with
can
the
ask,
Attorney
but that's,
General.
yeah, I'll ask.
Worth asking anyway, maybe she just forgot it, cause it's been well over a year since any of that
but
was
it's-
done, so. Or even discussed, so it may have just, you know, gone into a file somewhere because those people left office and then we had only two that didn't do anything on it for over a year, so she may have just filed it and just forgotten about it, so, you know, it might be worth it to.
No, that's fine, I mean, it's just, it's again, it's a step, I mean, the first thing I do is we have a cemetery, we have a pool of money, what we're in charge of. Jordan is the only trustee, you normally have successor trustees, I don't know who's the successor trustee. So there's those type of questions, there's a bunch of questions that we have, I mean, and once we do that, there may be a way to then expand that, but, and again,
I think the smaller group that you have as actual trustees of the trusts and the deeds, 5 or 6 is probably as big as you want.
Yeah, I would agree, yeah, so. Alright, let's move on from cemeteries.
Yay.
What else, do you have anything you wanna talk
Yeah,
about?
I just wanted to know, get permission for the town office to collect, or this be a drop box for school supplies like they do every year. You know,
Oh, yeah, okay.
and then the school will pick it up or make sure somebody gets it, so it's not a problem for anybody, but they usually will ask for things and the residents are very generous about dropping things off that goes to the school and it stays in Lebanon, so
Yeah.
as long as nobody cares about that.
Do we need to make a motion or we just do it?
Well, if
Just
you're
do
okay, yeah, okay, I just wanna make sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of that, what ever happened to that Girl Scout bookmobile, remember you were?
Oh, yeah, she didn't come, did she? No, we haven't, yeah, you're right, we haven't
I
heard from
haven't-
her,
I
haven't
haven't
seen
seen it.
her, no.
You just mentioned about school, and that's what I just thought.
Yep, that's right, she was gonna do a little book thing. We have one of those in Elliott that a Eagle Scout did.
I thought it was like almost ready or something.
Yeah, no, she was gonna, yeah.
Okay. You got anything for us, sir? What?
Do you have anything else?
Mary's been waiting.
Are we gonna go into executive session or something?
Today, no, did you want to?
Well, no, maybe not, I don't know.
About,
She can't say, cause we're all tuned in to listen.
That's
we
nice.
can, it's not too late, we can
Well,
quickly.
I guess it would be a personnel thing, I guess, so. We can do it when
But we'll-
everybody else is done,
Yeah, we'll do it, sure. I probably do have other stuff. This was a letter on the Goodwin.
Mhm.
It was addressed to Christine, July 12th, a little out of dated. But this is the one that Sally had talked to us about as well. So that was just a letter. I mean, it's old news, but we just got it, so I'm assuming we filed it with the abatement. I have this thing, local board, the LRAP program. Why did I have this for?
Does he have to fill it out, or somebody? Is that the thing they fill out annually?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do I fill this out? LRAP payments are now made once a year. If we receive an accurate completed certification form. I guess that's what this is the certification form, yep. Yeah, nobody really signs this, I guess. Interesting. Should we bring Tommy in to help work with us? Is that basically?
I would think so, cause I think
Right.
doesn't he fill it out and
Yeah, alright,
probably him and
alright,
Jordan, I don't
let's,
know, or whatever.
I'll set up a time. We also got a letter from a John Wall of Monahan and Leahy out of Portland. So they're representing, the insurance company hired them, and they're representing the town in that case. I guess it's York Superior County, so it's the O'Mearley case. So that was us, he was just introducing himself to us. And that's all that really is. But I guess what I thought was interesting is, he goes, only after I received Attorney Freeman's files, because she's got files she's gonna be doing, I'll be in touch to schedule a meeting to discuss the case with the board.
Okay.
Probably fill us in. Goes, in the meantime, I will keep you appraised of any developments. I look forward to working with the town to defend this case. He had mentioned here, well, we were initially contacted by Trident, will provide the entity with his information, blah, blah. It goes, we represent the town's interest in this matter. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So they're really, they're representing, even though they're hired and paid by the insurance company, they really look at it as though they're representing the town. So I thought that was interesting. So, if you wanna look at that, you can whenever you're done. This is a municipal client seminar in September from another law firm. So they're looking to give us update of what's going on. They review current legal issues and new laws enacted in the first session. So my guess is, it's a law firm that wants to hold this. And then this is just the York County. So it came in at 271, which is the one that they thought it was. So this is just the actual,
I don't know if you know.
oh, what is this? We have to do something. You are hereby required in the name of the state of Maine to assess the said sum last mentioned upon the inhabitants of the town, agreeable to the laws and said blah, blah, blah. So on the first day of September 2017. And that's what this must be. The sum of that have been committed to list there. So I guess, do we do that, I guess we can sign that during commitment.
Yeah, well,
That
yeah,
makes
because
sense.
that's when it,
'Cause that's essentially what it.
yeah, the assessors return, yeah.
So, alright. Can you hold on to that? You probably have like a folder for commitment stuff that we can, so we don't forget stuff. I had a complaint from an Irene Cosino, on 77 Kennebec Drive, regarding the roads in Indian Lake Shores are horrible. I won't read it because it's always the same, the potholes and they're, so. All I can say is we're working on it, we're getting there. It's on our list as far as one of them, not all of them this year, but at least a big section down there and, we'll see, so. And she really, it says, please work it in your budget to hot top all the roads in Indian Lake Shores. So that's, we're working it, so. Did you look at this? I passed this around. This had been on the table, so you may have, this was key municipal officials of MMA member
Yeah,
cities.
cause they're having an election, right?
Cause they're,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so basically you need to kind of look at the bios, and they've already picked everybody,
Yeah, that's all.
but, so I but I thought, well, you ought to probably be supportive.
Mhm.
So, and so signed by a majority of the officers, so,
Mhm.
did you see this, or?
Yes, I
You
read it,
already
yeah,
saw it, you
yeah.
saw it, so do we wanna,
Sure.
and that's the envelope. Date is the 20th. Oh, or signed by majority, yes, do signed by majority, sure. There's the envelope.
Thank you.
Alright, what else do I have? This was the BMV training,
Mhm.
but we're scheduled for the 27th to
Yep.
talk about that. That is that, I think that's all I have in my pile of stuff. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I meant to do that. Alright. Public participation?
You got a motion, right?
Oh,
Oh,
no.
Mary's been waiting.
It's okay. Yes, ma'am.
Mary Lane. I haven't been to quite a few meetings lately, but the last meeting I did come to, I did ask the new board about sheds on waterfront and why I was being taxed 14 years on my property, and all I have is a shed, and it was assessed at $27,000. I've been asking that question for the last 2 years. So I'm here tonight just to thank somebody here, because somebody here finally did something and looked into the problem on the waterfront for the sheds, and I shouldn't have been taxed, nor should anybody else on waterfront, I guess. My question is, how far back you going to make payments? You going back 3 years, or you gonna go back to 14 years?
We can't. Nope. We're only doing the current year.
You're only doing that for 1 year.
That's all we can do legally.
And can I get something, a copy of something that says that's what you can do, you can only do that? How do I get a copy of
Yes,
that?
in state law, yeah, I can,
If you can
I'll
just
get
pop it up and,
I'll get the assessor to print something out.
so you guys made a big boo-boo.
No, they didn't.
No, not you guys, I'm sorry. Town of Lebanon made a mistake. I've been asking for at least 2 years for someone to look into it. It took 2 years for a selectman here to look into the problem. Thank you very much
You're welcome.
for doing that, Chip.
You're welcome.
That's the only reason I came tonight.
And it wasn't just me.
Whoever, thank you very much. Time to go home, Paul.
Any other public questions? Right,
okay, Laura.
make your motion.
Where is it? I make a motion, we go into executive session, one MRSA 4056A.
You guys are really getting good at that.
Second it.
We wish we wouldn't have to.
Thank you, and I believe that a handshake with you is.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's okay. That comment was more meant for somebody else other than, but I
Oh, it's
used,
for another
but
slide.
I used, no,
Oh.
about the handshake was meant, I used that as an opportunity to get a point across to somebody else.
It's funny because
Thank
now I can't remember. But handshakes used to be good. And when I moved here, a
Good night,
handshake
Paul.
was
Good
all
night, Laura.
the
Bye.
time to do.
Oh.
But he wouldn't hold it. So
So,
it's hard to trust people.
alright.
Don't forget.
Shut the thing off.
Yeah.